Sam, a name we asked you last time we talked last week about potential trade targets, a name that has creeped up and kind of become, I don't want to say connected with the Cavs, but the Cavs might be interested in Caris Levert. Is that legitimate? And what would he bring to the Cavs?
Linked is always the word I use. Linked to the Cavaliers. I would think it's probably a long shot. Everything we know is that Levert is among the Pacers who's available, along with Domantas Sabonis and Miles Turner. Of course, those guys are big guys. But naturally, we're going to hear the Cavaliers mentioned in this simply because Colin Sexton obviously being out and Levert being a shooting guard. Of course, he's from Ohio, the Columbus area. So it's just a natural kind of rumor to squeeze in there. I do think it's a long shot, but I also think that, yes, the Cavaliers would have real interest. The guy averaged 22 points a game last year. He's averaging about 15 this year. Like Sexton, he kind of took a step back, Levert did, with the Pacers, simply to kind of help the young guys develop. Well, the Cavs are a generally young team, so a player like that is going to appeal to them. Levert's only 27 years old. He has a huge upside. So it's all a matter of, will Kobe Altman, the Cavs GM, make a call on Levert, hearing that he's available? I would say absolutely he will. But it's hard to predict what would happen beyond that. But he would probably be a nice fit. It's just you just don't want to give up what is actually a good thing going for the Cavaliers right now.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned the Pacers in rebuilding mode. What, and I know you don't know the answer, but what would you think they would be asking for or interested in? What would it take to get somebody like Caris Levert?
Well, you'd have to start with a draft pick. They definitely would want a first-round pick, you know, and I wrote a column or a piece about this today on HoopsWire that, you know, if you're the Cavs and you're probably, with the way you've been playing, you're probably not going to be drafting real high in the lottery. So if you did have to give up the pick, perhaps you could make it top 3 protected or something, if that were the case. You know, the Pacers are looking for what every team who's potentially trying to rebuild is looking for, and that's young players and picks. Would the Cavs be willing? You know, I know that this is all speculation, but a trade for Isaac Okoro and Cedi Osman would work under the salary cap for Caris Levert. So there's a lot of things that you would have to consider, who you'd be willing to part with. If you want to mess with chemistry, the chemistry's been going so well right now. I wouldn't think that this would be something the Cavs would pull the trigger on right away if they were able to do it. I think they would wait until closer to the February trade deadline to see how things are going. But, you know, the only thing I could come up with was Okoro and Cedi work under the salary cap for Levert, but the Pacers would certainly want a draft pick, a first-round pick along with that, with the idea being that they're going to rebuild and retool.
Yeah, and again, he's the type of shooting guard that could make the starting 5 potentially significantly better, if I'm hearing you right?
Yeah, for not only for the short term, but for the long term as well, because he does, you know, again, he's only 27 years old, and more than that, you know, immediate dividends you would think he would pay, because now you have a consistent 16 to 22 point scorer filling in that role for Colin Sexton, who's obviously out injured. And then once Sexton, you know, you protect yourself because Sexton's a restricted free agent at the end of the season. If he should come back, then you have him and Levert. I just think that it would be a nice step forward for them. But more than anything, you know, for the long term, but more than anything, it would pay immediate dividends right now because they have not been getting consistent production out of the shooting guard spot. And Darius Garland, the point guard, could obviously use some help with some consistency at the shooting guard position.